Okay, good afternoon. Travis, we got a tough job. The only thing between them and that fabulous box lunch is us.
That's right.
All right, so 3 years ago, I joined YuMe. I saw an opportunity and what I thought was really a need for the online video industry. We saw the need to help you planners and buyers to really understand a nascent market and better understand that value as it applied to online video in the media mix. And so for the last 3 years, we've commissioned studies, a number of different studies. For example, our first study was with Nielsen, and we looked at how online video augments television, increasing reach, increasing frequency, and even bringing down CPMs. 2 years ago, with IPG Labs, a terrific partner, we looked in depth at how running campaigns across 3 and 4 screens and how it affects all those attitudinal metrics. Also with IPG Labs, we took an in-depth look at the emerging markets and the consumer's use of tablets and smartphones. And we even looked into the new and very nascent market of connected TV. And today, we've saved the very best for last. This is our world premiere. And that's our most recent study in conjunction with our friends at Millward Brown and also Dynamic Logic, somebody that most of you are probably very familiar with in the room. So the left side, excuse me, let's see.
There we go.
So the left side of the slide, it really sets the baseline for today's discussion. We know that online video is extremely effective. We do studies every day as to the effective levels of how much spend should take place. We know that online video has the branding prowess of TV and also has the interactive capabilities of the web. One agency leader friend of mine in Boston says that online video is like TV on steroids. Her words, not mine, but I do like your thinking. And the proof is in the numbers that you see all the time from Millward Brown, from Dynamic Logic, from Vizu, and everybody else that measures. This whole conference so far this morning has been about measurement. And so by any attitudinal measure, and we all know them, we all love them, awareness, brand favorability, message recall, purchase intent, online video has become the go-to option for brand advertisers in the digital space, and I don't think I'll get any argument from any of you. So the right side of the slide, questions still remain on how to maximize effectiveness of the online video buy. We continue to get these questions on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, on an hourly basis. Since the advent of PC video, the chorus has been for years and years and years. Minsky and I, you heard of it earlier, for 17 years, we've been debating on whether or not we should just repurpose television creative, or should we create ads specifically for the online video space? Should I run a 15 or should I run a 30? What interactive elements should I add to maximize the potential of online video? So these are the questions that we set out with Millward Brown and Dynamic Logic to figure out and to try to help you guys once more agnostically raise all boats in the high tide and see what we could do. So this gentleman, so I have the pleasure of introducing my colleague, Travis Hockersmith. Travis is the VP of Creative Services,
Client Services.
What is it?
Client Services.
Sorry, Client Services. Why do I always get that wrong?
You make something up on the fly.
So VP of Client Services as well as Research. Travis has commissioned every study that we've done for the last 3 years. I can't think of anybody more qualified. Just to further establish his credibility, for 7 years he was a global marketing manager. I always get that one right. Global marketing manager buying lots of television for Intel. But when I ran into him, he was also arguing for more online video and how that could augment the Intel television buy. So again, I can't think of anyone more qualified to hand it off to at this point. Travis Hockersmith.
Let me grab the clicker from you. Thank you. So this is a study that we're releasing today, and this is the 10-minute version. So we have a much more comprehensive data set that we're happy to share with you after this presentation. Thought I'd bring you through some of the top-line findings, and I'll start you with a couple data points that everyone in this room probably already knows. So first, when making decisions about what kind of video is most effective, generally speaking, there's long form and short form, and then there's also in-banner versus in-stream. And we see that in-stream pretty much across the board outperforms in-banner. Not only that, but in-stream video tends to outperform any other type of digital media advertising option. So this kind of sets the stage for the questions that we're trying to answer, which is, we know video works. Now, what are the best practices around how to make your video campaign work best? So a few fairly intuitive, high-level takeaways. First of which is, in the data across thousands of campaigns that we looked at, it was pretty clear that just adding an element of interactivity to even a TV spot that's being used on the web raises brand performance pretty substantially. The web is interactive. There are all kinds of interactive elements that you can add right on top of a TV spot at pretty much no cost, and we strongly encourage all advertisers to do that. Second, frequency. So we work with a lot of advertisers where we have long conversations about frequency caps and how to minimize frequency. And in some cases, that discussion is very well warranted. But I'd say in general, the problem isn't too much frequency, it's too little. And so when we look across all these campaigns, what we see is those campaigns that reach the audience 3 or more times just perform better. So again, the problem isn't too little frequency or too much frequency, it's too little. And that runs counter to a lot of the conversations that we have on a daily basis. A lot of video advertising in our space is repurposed television creative. And TV creative is typically made with a specific demo group in mind because that's how you buy TV. So it's interesting to see that when we looked at demo-targeted campaigns, they tended to outperform those that weren't demo-targeted. So that's another just high-level best practice when you're using TV creative, is try to replicate that TV audience that it was designed for as closely as possible through simple techniques like demo targeting. Probably the single most common question that we address through data is, should I run a 15 or should I run a 30 in pre-roll? And like all good questions in media, the answer is it depends. I'll tell you that we see about a 10% higher completion rate for 15s than we do 30s, but that doesn't tell the whole story. For those kind of lower funnel metrics, we certainly see that a 30 can be very powerful in terms of moving the needle. So it really depends on the objective of the campaign. If it's more creating breakthrough and a higher video completion rate, then certainly 15 is great. If you're really trying to drive home a message or change the perception of a brand, it's often worth the trade-off in video completion rate to put a 30 in front of a consumer. Another big question that we address on a somewhat regular basis is, should I run my TV spot or should I create a spot specific for the web? And again, the answer to this question is also, to a certain extent, it depends. But I will say, generally speaking, that web original, made for web video creative, tends to outperform repurposed TV creative. The exception to that rule being when you want to strongly align your TV and your online video spend and create more breakthrough, and I'll show you what that means in the numbers right here. But the web original videos, as you can see, pretty much across the board show very strong performance relative to repurposed TV creative, except for in the one category, online ad awareness. So again, if you're trying to synchronize your TV spend with your online spend and make people very aware of a specific piece of creative, then using the same creative online that you use on TV is probably a very good strategy. Otherwise, if there is the time and the budget to make web original video, it often can be the right strategy. For many of the advertisers that we work with, web original video isn't necessarily an option for a variety of reasons. So based on all of the data we looked through, put together a very high-level overview of best practices for taking specific television creative and running it on the web. So depending on the goal of the campaign, generally speaking, we recommend in-stream video with interactivity. So on any campaign that goes out the door, take advantage of those interactive elements that can overlay on top of the video spot, be it product information, Facebook, Twitter links, what have you. In terms of frequency, again, we see that the problem is typically too little frequency, not too much. So we recommend optimizing a campaign towards 3+ frequency as a general rule. Demo targeting is certainly a good thing to apply to campaigns that are using TV creative. And then depending on the objective of the campaign, a 30 or a 15 could be a very good fit. There's one small change that across the board we found in the data makes a big difference when you take a TV spot and bring it over to the web. And it's a very simple change that you can apply to literally any TV spot that you use on the web. And that's something as simple as making sure the branding is persistent on every single frame. And you don't necessarily see this all the time in TV creative. In fact, in TV creative, you sometimes don't even see any visual branding until the last few frames. We recommend that when you bring TV creative online, go ahead and put the branding on every single frame. It could be as simple as taking the brand logo and putting it in the bottom right-hand corner of every single frame of the creative. Something that simple makes a big difference when transferring the creative from TV to online. And then for many brands, they're taking a longer format TV creative, like a 60 or 30, and cutting it down to a 15 to maximize video completion rate, for example. So a lot of data to back up all of these best practices as well, but just the high-level points here are when you're cutting back, the things to really keep intact are certainly any shots of the product, anything that's very emotive. Human presence is very emotive. We've done studies on that. So human presence, certainly keeping the ad as much as possible. And then certainly your primary messaging, the core message. Candidates to cut would be any mention of competition. And then certainly your secondary messaging that doesn't tie directly to the core message of the ad. And then any of the kind of lead up to the punchline, the less emotive content. And this is pretty typical in many TV spots that the first several seconds are a lead up to the story. Adding your brand logos across every frame, and perhaps even adding copy that complements the voiceover right there on the screen can make a big difference, especially when some people are starting a video on their computer with maybe the volume low or something like that. Before they turn it up, give them a little help on the core messaging. And then certainly a strong call to action and interactivity that makes the next step very obvious for them. So again, these are the high-level findings. We'd be more than happy to share you the more in-depth findings after this presentation. But with that said, I'll turn it back to Scott.
Terrific stuff. You can keep that. So yeah, just one last point on that. We've done this. This is our 4th study. Every one of these we make available to anybody that wants it. We can do an awful lot of cuts of data at this. This is very high level. We've got, I don't know, probably another 120 slides that we could take you through this afternoon if you got time. This, by the way, is the very first iMedia was at Aspen, and all of us were sitting inside rather than skiing. Same thing, they keep testing our will, right? So it's like, we're here, and we're inside this place instead of being out there on the beach, as we're going through one-on-ones this afternoon. So we're happy to get this to you. Myself, Joe Farrell, Ann Piper, Travis, we're all here for the next couple of days. Scott McLernan at YuMe, or S. McLernan at YuMe, would be happy to get it to you. I did a little test, Travis, and from what I could tell, I saw notes being taken, and then I saw a whole new way of measuring whether this was valuable. I saw people actually taking shots with their iPhones. So apparently we resonated with you folks. Thanks very much. Thanks very much to iMedia for letting us come up and do this. Hopefully we'll have another study for you in about 6 months.